This is Trinont, and this is Path of Exile Necropolis, our slow playthrough. Papercut Trin is in Act 10. And we have two major pieces of content to do, namely Act 10 and the Super Lab. Okay. So we have a 5-link here. I think our first step, though, is to properly gear. That might require some smart gearing options. This kite shield's actually pretty good. Basically, we need to, I want to say this is the better gear option. Lancing Steel, Pierce, Impale. Gotta figure out what other gems we want to do with Lancing Steel. Probably not LMP or GMP. Vicious Projectiles, maybe? That might be the way to go. Just get some extra damage on our Lancing Steel. That would be Act 2. Because we are doing physical damage a lot, and Vicious Projectiles will help with that. Either that or Point Blank, and I don't need Point Blank. Let's do Vicious Proj. Alright. So yes, the first important thing to do for leveling is gearing. I also want to check my ascendancies here. Conqueror sounds pretty darn good. I know First to Strike, Last to Fall is also really good. Anyways. So we have gearing issues to resolve. Let's check. Alright, our fire res is okay and we can push it back up. We're actually in a good spot with just this alone. We do need more life, though. Though our accuracy is dictating, saying that maybe I do need more accuracy, too. Alright, so we are looking for 4 green and 1 red. This might take a little bit because it's favoring red over green. I don't think we can suffer a red socket. But we have 70 chromatic orbs saved over the campaign. So that's a start. 4 green, 1 red. We got it. Just had to say it out loud. That's how random chance works, right? Unfortunately, that does mean our spells cost more mana. Well, what you gonna do? Alright, then we need 2 red on this thing for Dread Banner and Ancestral Protector. But we really don't need Ancestral Protector at this point, it's really kind of a dud skill. Let's see. And honestly, if we just craft Fire Res, we're in a good spot. And even though we should sell that piece of gear and whatever on this thing. Alright, let's check our other pieces of gear. Our serrated foil is about as good as I think we're going to get. Put the eye jewel here, why not? Let's just put our jewels up while we're at it. Even though, like, I've been collecting them and I really shouldn't have been. And then we'll talk about the rest of the game. Okay, I think we're in a good spot. I'm actually really surprised we got a Stygian Vice. We're not going to use it just yet because it has bad stats and I don't really have a way to adjust it unless I have a high level essence. I do not. And I don't have an orb of... I do have orbs of scouring though. And something like lightning resistance. Yeah, we don't really have a means for it. If I had an essence that was worthwhile putting on that thing, it would work out. Chaos Res is 2, which we'll want to get higher eventually. And honestly, let's see, we got our 25% move speed. Isn't there a 30% move speed pair of boots I found? 25, 30, here we go. And all this needs is really just cold res on it. And we'll be fine. Okay, and maybe some extra slots. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. That's exactly what we need. Now all we need is whatever resistance we're missing. We're not... we'll put cold on it later, but not right now. Okay, so we move faster. We have a 5-link. We have our swords. One thing I missed at the start of Act 10 was Divinia's here. So Divinia is one of the other mini games. Not technically a master, but is definitely one of the other mini games in the game. Divinia unlocks the Forbidden Sanctum. In order for us to do that, though, we have to go to the Ossuary, which is later in Act 10.
The prodigal returns. I see your eyes.
Lonnie is like, we have to go. Lonnie's like, we have to go save Bannon, and that's actually part of the main quest line. And everybody else is not going to progress their dialogue until we do that, but we'll talk to everybody here. Get rid of their pesky exclamation marks. Okay. Lily will sell gems, level 1 gems, if we care to do them. And we'll just head on.
You there, Exile. I am in need of your services once more. Help me.
Oh, we got a level. That was fast. So the mini boss here is Plaguewing. Plaguewing does chaos damage and leaps. We're back to the Kitava Heralds again. Also likes to spit projectiles. Very annoying. Kind of a long kill for him. I think we're not going to be doing too much damage right now. Alright. Get some accuracy going. And accuracy is boosted. That's good. And we'll just head back to the... So, yeah, story-wise, we were supposed to head back and talk to Bannon.
Good if you are to go wandering.
We are here to find the Staff of Avarius, and that is... We're going to get Sen back. And Sen tells a secret that Bannon is going to be incinerated to become innocence again. Lonnie has grown fond of Bannon, which is unfortunate, and so we're not going to tell Lonnie that he's about to turn into cinders. And to become a new deity, we already have a quartz flask. I don't think any of these actually matter. Maybe the silver flask for Onslaught. Free Onslaught is nice, so we'll just pick it up. And then Lonnie wants to talk about Valenta. Valenta was that Piety's scientist person. That feeling when your boyfriend gets totally lit, but in the wrong way. Too real, too real. So, we did get a reduced effect of shock last, which is actually pretty good. but I would rather keep 2 mana flask or 2 divine flasks for now.
Now that the brine diamond.
We've got 2 quests from Lily and Whalem. Both are optional, both don't really give good stuff, but the ossuary does have our final Trial of Ascendancy, so we are going to need that. And back to the cathedral rooftop we go. Get our golem buddy back up. The rooftop has the same enemies as Act 5, really. Kitava Heralds, Wailing Widows. Well, they're called Shrieking Witches now. But they were the Wailing Widows, I think, earlier. Shrieking Witches, Kitava Heralds. Kitava Heralds are actually probably the tankiest enemies in the game. Like, if there's the tankiest enemies in the game have about the same health pool as Kitava Heralds. Which is relevant for the Detonate Dead skill, which has damage based on corpse life. There might be a recent exception, but I think that's really about, like, Kitava Heralds are about the peak health you're going to get in the game. If this enemy had Soul Eater, that'd be a problem because he constantly revives minions. Oh yeah, let's get our filter back to normal. I don't think it'll make a difference at the campaign level. Really, strict filters don't actually... Oh, it's only for Desecrate? Okay, yeah. So, in general... Specifically, when you're trying to summon corpses based off a Spectre you made... Because Spectres save between areas, essentially. Like, if you made a Kitava Herald and you have then Desecrate and summon a Spectre from it, the corpse will stay in other areas. Kitava Heralds are the tankiest in the campaign. And if you summon if you use Desecrate, which is create corpses, it'll have the highest health pool will be up to Kitava Herald's health. Unless there's a bug that they forget about, which happened a few times, for sure. That has not been completely uncommon. And let's see. Oh, unique. The Doidra's Damning. I think that's like a curse helmet. Don't really need Spell Totem. I really don't need the Ancestral Protector for a ranged skill like Lancing Steel. Oh well. It's fine. We'll optimize our skill gems later, I would say. It's honestly not important in the campaign. I'd say around maps is about when I would start looking into optimizing some of the gear. Not necessarily a 6 link, which is like the amount of links you want for your final tier of skill. But certainly like all the utility skills you can get 4 links out of. Oh, an invasive character, you say. You don't need an Eagle Claw. We don't really need the Opal Scepter, but it is a chromatic orb, so... Oh, Lightning Ground. Shock is very dangerous in this game, so you gotta be careful about it. Makes you take more damage. And that damage is multiplicative and not additive. So taking 30% more damage, just flat out, in a game that does the game that spews out as much damage as Path of Exile does, pretty dangerous, pretty dangerous. I want to say the entrance to Kitava Square is always on the right side of this bend, so... The Ravage Square, sorry. And we're not going to replace any of these friends because I want to talk about them. There's some interesting enemies in this area. So, I used to just beeline... It's time to end this. So, I used to beeline straight to the north side of the map, which is where the quest progresses, essentially. And unfortunately, but thinking on it, I think it's more efficient if you're trying to get all the skill points to go down south first to grab Valenta's Vengeance. Valenta is in the control blocks, which the layout of this area is mostly the same. Also, hello, Eric Foxy. Yeah, RPGs are fun. I can understand wanting to play other games than PoE in the RPG genre. Big statues have more life than heralds. Interesting. Including with Desecrate. We don't actually care about the control blocks. We're not going to go in here just yet. We are going to just tag the waypoint and leave. You know, I think when I burn out of PoE, I tend to bounce between games very much too. They're capped to the level of heralds, so these twisted effigies have more health than Kitava heralds. I honestly would not have guessed. Unless you're talking about the big statues in like Act 8. It's good. You know, this is why it's good to have a chat, doing these little playthroughs. Learn about the game this way. So there's some gross enemies here. My favorite are the enemies that eat corpses and spit them out at you. The big gold statues, the Auric. Okay, yeah, that actually makes sense. I was thinking either the Auric champions or whatever. So, I forget what they're called. There's these enemies that are people that crawl on the ground and have huge bloated guts from eating corpses too much. And they just spit them back out at you. They actually are kind of like the seagull wretches in Act 1, but you know, they're people eating corpses. The warped regurgitators. Well, that's an appropriate name. You also have evil versions of the Oriathan Blackguards, the Heretical Guardians. They have annoying proxy shields. Interesting. They of Toll in the end game has the most HP. Would not have guessed. Other enemy types around here that we're going to be looking for are the Wickermen. I'm not actually sure what their model is supposed to be. I think they're actually just people in cages hopping around, but I'm not sure about that. And they have a very, or at least a moderately annoying damage over time fire aura. Can actually be kind of obnoxious. And we do want to kill the essences for the essence monsters for their beautiful little essences that help us craft better gear, in theory. Another warped regurgitator. Oh, this is the a new unique from Affliction League called the Trickster's Smile, I think. Never really used it. It seems situational enough to not be warranted. I want to say this bridge is always broken, but the bridge on the right side of the river is not. The Ravage Square is actually a very fixed layout, believe it or not. Like, maybe the terrain is a little different, like where the shields and the corpses are placed, but overall, a lot of the area is the same tile set in the Ravage Square. Probably one of the most fixed areas in the game. Which is nice. It's a big hub area, or a big center, crossroads area. So it's important to maybe know where things are. Yeah, those are the Wickermen right there. Can't really mouse over them just yet. We're gonna warp back and drop off loot. Really, I should just not be picking up all this stuff, but habits die hard. Trickster Smile. When an enemy deals elemental damage to you, their resistances to those elements become 0 for 4 seconds. So it's kind of like a weird Thornsy style of attack. Almost good, not quite. If only it had fizz damage instead of fire and cold, that would have been great synergy. It's actually not a bad belt.
Yes?
So we'll talk to Lonnie. I could have control clicked, but I did not.
For freedom.
The annoying part about Act 10 is that the town is kind of a navigation hazard. All the NPCs are really hard to click everywhere. Like if I want to get to here, I have to avoid name locking on all of these characters. It's too crowded, if you ask me. Anyways, the waypoint is in the north side of the map. It leads to the ossuary. Oh yeah, that's true. The waypoint's far from the load-in point. True, true, true. Here we go. Yeah. The Act 10 is probably the worst town to idle in, just because there's too small of an area with too many NPCs to get name locked into, and the waypoint's in the wrong spot. There's the Wickerman, and it does damage over time. You're around it. It's very annoying. This one has Consecrated Ground, which doesn't tell you much, but Consecrated Ground, be it yours or other enemies, basically allies on Consecrated Ground, including yourself, regenerate life and have reduced curse effects, or enemies have reduced curse effect on you. Now, that can be kind of annoying if you're not doing too much damage, or if the enemy has a lot of life regen mods. Men made of wicker, scarecrow. True. I'm thinking of the movie The Wicker Man, where they put a person in a wicker cage and burnt them. I don't know. Let me see this model here. It looks like it's just a person inside a suit that's being set on fire, so it's kind of that idea. There's a story about the Wicker Man. There's a movie. There's 2 movies, actually. One of them, if you ever heard the How to Get Burned or Not the Bees memes, that's where that's from. Wickerman, a Nicker Cage, yeah. Nicholas, man, Cage. I don't know. I didn't know Kitava Heralds were in the Torch Courts, but here we are. Courts are less on fire now. They just ran out of fire. They're completely burnt out. Surprised they're not. Surprised they're still standing. Honestly, you think a giant building on fire would not be standing, yet here we are. I guess it's durable foundation here. Whenever I see enemies buffed by a shrine, which you can tell because they have that little glowing yellow aura under them, that can be very ominous if you don't know what the shrine is, if you're too far away from them. Some of the nastier shrines include critical strike shrines, where you always crit, meaning enemies always crit. Here's a life regen enemy. With overwhelm physical damage reduction too, so our armor does mood against this enemy. I think Fortify still works though, which is good. So, I think the most dangerous shrine though has to be a very rare one called a dominating shrine, which just makes you immune to damage, which means the enemies are immune to damage. And until you click the shrine, meaning you have to get through all the enemies and name lock onto the shrine instead of any of the enemies around it. Yeah. Invulnerability shrines are a significant amount of your deaths. They're a non-zero amount for me too. They're not too common, so I wouldn't say they're a significant amount percentage-wise. Just because I die to so many other things. But they are, when they pop up, they are very deadly. This is known. Enemy types are mostly the same here. More zealots, more temporal bubble enemies. Layout's mostly the same too. Divine Shrine, not Domination Shrine. You're right. Domination's just the name of the league that shrines were introduced. Domination's actually the name of the shrine event. They're called Divine Shrines. My bad. So the Torch Courts works the same as the other court map, where it just loops around, kind of a big U-turn. And that's about it. I think that once you see the stairways going up, you know you're getting to the desecrated chambers. This is fine. We're coming up to probably the biggest DPS check of the campaign, and knowing how this build's been going, I'm going to assume it's going to be pretty bad. This Rogue Exile is very dangerous if you don't have Chaos Res. It's Ulysses Morvant. One of the few Rogue Exiles I remember by name because of how many times I've died to him. He does this Chaos Degen and general pain points. Ice Nova is an interesting strongbox mod. It's heavy damage of Ice Explosion. The big thing about Ice Nova on strongboxes, though, is it does more damage, or it has a wider area. Well, it does more damage, of course, but it has a wider area the farther in the game you are. To the point where when you're in the late end game, you basically want to run to the edge of the screen. And sometimes there's effects that increase the area effect of monsters, and strongboxes count for that. So if monsters have increased area of effect, you want to run away from a strongbox every time you open one, because it could have Ice Nova, and the Ice Nova will off-screen. Doesn't always do the most damage, but it does enough damage to be like, maybe you should not be near it. Detonate Corpses is still the most deadly strongbox damage mod, but it's not the... but it has a shorter explosion range, and it relies on corpses being around it, which they usually are. So here, the area is filled with broken glass. One of the new enemy types in this area is stained glass elementals, these things. I forget what their actual name is. They're pretty straightforward enemies. I think they might inflict bleed. The real thing they do is they shoot like a little bit of piercing shots, kind of like my Lancing Steel almost. They don't impale though. I did level, so we'll get versatility, please. Now the real threat of this area is coming up soon. And that would be the boss of the area, which actually is the halfway boss. This act is very short if you let it be. We could, theoretically, once we beat this boss, go straight to the finals gauntlet, the last 2 zones of the game. We're not going to do that, though. We have a lot of optional stuff to do. I think the Defiled Cathedral, the Desecrated Chambers, sorry, is actually one of the better farming spots in some ways. I'm not sure how true that is, but in Act 10 it does feel like there's a lot of magic packs here. Alright, so Avarius got rebuilt. And he swaps from doing lightning damage and having phases to being a single phase fight. But the big problem with Avarius is his blood beams, not this attack, though that does hurt. Those things. If you get hit by those, you get a huge degen on you. They come in 2 patterns. One of them is they'll spin around from the center of the arena, like that. The other is they will come from the left side of the screen to the right, or the right side of the screen to the left. He also summons statues still. Like an annoying jerk. Yeah, there's the right to left beam swipe. So you just generally want to stay out of the center of the arena, and you want to stay out of the right side of the arena. So you can read the dodges better. You don't want to be too near him either, because that sweep attack does a lot of damage, I find. Unless you have a lot of physical mitigation. And that's Avarius. And we have the Staff of Purity, which we are going to give to Bannon. Bannon, please turn into Innocence. No, Sin told me. Anyways, you get to turn into... And Bannon's clothes will just remain there for the rest of the game. Well, they never throw them away or anything. But Innocence has been humbled by being in Bannon, and Lonnie is sad, but will still give us loot. I don't think any of this is particularly good.
Remember,
We do this for freedom. So we'll just put this up. So there's options to go through. Weirdly enough, the optional areas in this act are actually as high level as the final area of the act. The Reliquary and the Ossuary are going to be level 67. That's the level of the final boss. The control blocks aren't those, so we'll just go by highest level area, and control blocks is, or lowest level area in next in story, and control blocks are that. So we're going to go kill Valenta, who's doing mad science again. Valenta wasn't actually originally in the 3.0 release, it was 3.1 they added her in as a boss fight. So we're going to murder her. And she is where the miasmator was in Act 5. Miasmator being the device she wanted to hear the whispers of the beast. Story-wise, Lonnie would tell us that she went insane, heard the ramblings of Kitava, and led everybody in the control block, the Overseer's Tower, which was the town in Act 5, which is why we're not sitting there now. And because the evil gem science experiments were in the near the miasmator, she's decided to revisit there and do horrible evil gem science again. The thaumaturgy, as it's said.
Another day, another day.
And normally around this time, you would want to have about 300 health per act. There are ways to mitigate that, that rule of thumb gets downplayed though. So around Act 10, we probably want around 3,000 health. Notice our health pool is much lower than that right now. However, we do have a lot of fortify and armor, so we are taking less damage than the average character would right now from even physical attacks. So our effective health pool is not really reflected by our life right now. This is Valenta. Valenta's turned into a flying demon monster, being powered up by her evil science beams. She has 2 add phases, she has 3 phases, 2 add phases in between. The phases don't really change. You want to stay out of the beams, they hurt. She will get big and do more damage, you gotta watch out for that. I think she has a bug where she can really hurt with a shotgun effect. And hardcore players tend to wait till later to beat Valenta because she can bug out and do too much damage. We're not in hardcore, so we don't care about that. If we were, I'd have to play this game again. And we got Prism Weave, which is the elemental damage belt. It's not bad. No exit here, so we're just gonna leave. And we get a nice little skill point from Valenta. I forget what quest gave us a skill point in Act 10 originally. I want to say it's like one of the ossuary quests or something. Anyways, a skill point. I think it's a safe thing to maybe get more life now. Life and armor. Get this juggernaut stuff going on. And then we'll probably seek more damage. Oh yeah, we're getting long shot. Probably do that, actually.
Greetings.
Okay. So, with all of that in tow, we have the ossuary to do, which handedly is right next to the Rabbit Square. Now, this has an optional quest normally, but the other 2 things it has are more important, namely unlocking the Divinia's minigame. Oh, Jun has appeared here too. You can tell because the Jun Veiled Master mission is appearing on the screen. The other thing, so Divinia unlocks her Forbidden Sanctum minigame, and the other thing is the final Trial of Ascendancy is over here. So we're going to collect that real quick. And here's the Forbidden Archive, which is related to the Forbidden Sanctum minigame. And we get the Mortonomicon, which is a name that I laughed out loud when I first heard it. They just... Necronomicon? What's that? Never heard of it. But I got a good chuckle from that. So, one of the Syndicate missions that is an assassination is transportation. Basically, this cart is going to leave to exit destination point. And we have to kill the leader of the Syndicate member guiding the cart to stop it in its tracks. And when we do, we get to do the conspiracy board again. Which I'll do after I clear out these enemies. It's not really great to deal with these friends while in the middle of a interrogation of a fight. I generally bargain if I can with Syndicate, namely because if you can get more Syndicate members trusting or rivaling each other, so bargain or betray, that means they'll show up in packs when you encounter them, meaning you get more options with the Syndicate per encounter, meaning you can progress the Syndicate tracks faster. Because bargain also often has an option to give intel as well, so you don't have to do interrogation as much. The one thing you gotta watch out for, though, is remove a Syndicate member from Syndicate. And the reason for that is because sometimes you want to keep them around for their juicy rewards. We won't be doing too much Syndicate in the playthrough. This is probably the last time we'll see them until maps, which I'm not entirely sure this playthrough will be entailing. It might. I'm still out deciding on that. Did normal at Ziri always have global reflects? Yes. Normal at Ziri always had 1% reflect? I'm pretty sure. I'm like 80% on this. Probably 90. Yeah, I think she always had the 1% reflect. Anyways, that's a boss that we're not going to encounter for a very long time in this playthrough, if we even go that far. I guess there's also a crafting recipe here, which is nice. Elixir of Allure for Whalem. That's really not even a quest we would complete normally, but since we're here, we might as well. This enemy has the pesky ability of the mana drain donut. Your mana drains if you're in that donut. One of the not common mods, an uncommon mod, if you'd say, but very annoying when it pops up, especially if you come across two of them at once. The book over there is the Final Trial of Ascendancy. Yeah, I would say if you do a significant amount of damage of any sort, Edziri's Tiny Reflect will murder you. It generally won't. It takes a lot of damage to get to that point, though, because I think it is 1%. But if you have too much damage, then you might want to look into Yugul and maybe some other Reflect immune. The Writhing Jar. Writhing Jar is an interesting flask. It just summons worms. The big thing, though, is those worms had to be nerfed over and over because on-kill effects were so powerful with it that people made busted builds that were kind of memey, but still busted. The devs, I think, have been on record saying they loathe the worm jar and trying to balance it. The writhing jar. People call it the worm jar because it summons worms. Alright, so we found the Morning we found the trial. Wait, did I? Oh no, I didn't complete the center one. Sorry. I forgot the center bit. Silly me.
An emperor must know precisely where he stands.
Nearly left the wrong way. And we'll turn in some quests. Whalem. And Lonnie, buy my stuff. Jun will need to unveil my stuff, but that is unfortunately in my hideout. Jun, where are you again? There you are. Damage per frenzy charge. Probably that one. A lot of veiled mods don't really matter. Also got a scarab to drop. Might have been our first scarab. Oh, that was an All-Flame member. My bad. Scarab. No, it was a scarab. Scarabs are for maps, which we have 3 of right now, or 6 of. But once we get to maps, I'll maybe do a demo and talk about the scarabs. Alright, the Mordicon, Exito, Immortalis. So we'll talk to Divinia and progress this a little bit.
Actually found with this book, I might just be able to make some headway dealing with a very...
So we're going to visit the Forbidden Sanctum, which is a little mini game. It's one of the newer ones. It was added... It was introduced in 3.20 and made core in 3.22, so... Reference we're on 3.24, so basically it's only a year old.
Do you see that altar?
And generally, if you've played Hades or any other roguelite like that, this is what this minigame is. We go through a procedural dungeon with a added kind of health meter that doesn't kill us, but will reset the run if it goes to 0, and it's very hard to recover. A lot of telegraphed attacks in the Forbidden Sanctum. And if we went in here, we could do the run.
I can see the energies. Guard your treasures well.
You also get relic effects, and there's little coins you get to trade with Divinia to get upgrades. You can see this whole layout. This reminds you of Hades or any other roguelike. You progress left or right in this case and try to get to the boss. There's 4 floors and so on and so forth. We're not going to do it right now because we're kind of bad at the game. And who forbade it? The Templars, I believe.
Well, aren't you capable and accomplished?
And her exclamation mark will sit there forever.
There'll be time for that soon enough.
But yeah, the Forbidden Sanctum gives actually added lore to a mechanic that generally didn't have any until recently. That we don't encounter until maps, actually. Alright, final thing we need to do before we beat the game is the final Labyrinth. So this is our highest level area so far, the Merciless Labyrinth. It's actually kind of meant to be done after you beat the game, arguably. But there's a big reason to do it before then. Yeah, heretical lore, true. Forbidden Sanctum's about the plotline is like a deal with immortality, again, with a monster from beyond. Named Bedot. So Labyrinth is a super high level area. Or not a super higher level area than the campaign. But the reason you want to do it early is because after you beat the campaign, gold doors, you will get minus 30% to all resistances again, and that would mean I'd have to re-gear a little bit, and my Chaos Res would likely not be recoverable. So Merciless Lab also introduces the pesky golden doors. Golden doors, unlike silver doors, are mandatory, so you have to find a golden key in the area. In the later Labyrinth, the golden key is in a completely separate area, and it takes even longer to fetch. Alright, we gotta watch out for this golem because he has exploding crystals. So once he dies, he'll explode and we gotta run away. Want to be able to witness uber fights and have an uber feared maximum terror. Yeah, as Zara says, where there is a golden door, there must be a golden key. Later in the game, there'll be super bosses that you can fight, and you can witness them, these pinnacle bosses, and add them into an arena and fight them all at once. There's also uber variants of these pinnacle bosses. You cannot witness those yet. But they might decide to introduce that just to mess with players. Who knows? Let's get some life and armor. Though really, players are already feeling like they're at their limit with some of the challenges in this game, I would argue. Key. There must be a golden door. Azara likes to talk, I guess. Grim Joint. Grim Joint, the dangerous toke. Alright, I'm being silly. My bad. Rare monsters have fun names in this game. One thing I like to do is to keep an eye out for the sillier names. Starting in level 68 areas, the filter I'm using will start showing basically all the rares that drop, because actually from level 60 onwards, especially level 68, because basically when you sell a full set of rare gear, like a full inventory, full characters set worth, you'll get a Chaos Orb, and that Chaos Orbs are one of the more common trading items. When you come across 2 gold doors, if you want to go quickest to Zaro, try to take the left door.
Let the day dawn golden with possibility.
It'll either lead to the room that has the weakness to the Azaro's machinations in his arena, the reliquary. I forget what the specific name is. Yeah, it'll always lead to a Forgotten Reliquary or Azaro himself, depending on how far in the Golden Door is. This is a little tricky. If I try to jump here, it'll kind of name lock in a weird way. But we passed it, so we're good. I don't really have the Labyrinth layouts memorized, but I will say that if you go left and up, it's generally the easiest way to get there, to the end of the Labyrinth. Usually always start on the right side of the area, and then you just go left and up, and it'll get there. That is a chromatic orb. One of the more dangerous aspects of the Merciless Labyrinth and onwards is Azaro's pet, Argus. Argus is hidden somewhere in the labyrinth in this giant maze. And Argus is a fairly damaging mini-boss who will drop a treasure key if you murder him, and Azara will be sad, but it's generally not worth it, in my opinion, if you don't feel like you can comfortably take on Argus. Precise Projectiles is a silly name for a skill, perhaps. Vicious Projectiles, the new skill I added, just simply adds more physical damage to projectiles or chaos damage at the cost of slower projectile attack speed, which is a fair enough trade in this case. I don't care about projectile attack speed that much when they go this fast already. They used to not have that penalty, they were just extra projectile damage. Around patch 3.15, they did a big pass over skills and mostly nerfed a lot of them. They gave a lot of skills that were just straight up buffs, added downsides, like Vicious Proj had slower projectile speed, increased melee damage, suffered reduced attack speed. Oh, there's an upgraded version called Precise Projectiles and Torchlight Infinite. That's funny. Here's Aspirin's Trial. Mindlessly just got there just by going top and left. Alright, this is vendor stuff, vendor stuff, vendor stuff. Unique. Vendor stuff, vendor stuff. The next essence you hit will be killed instantly. I forget what essences are. I think they're golems that give elemental buffs to Zaro. I'm okay murdering them. Yeah, there's a fire, lightning, and cold essence, and they give elemental damage to Zaro. We have dual wield sword Zaro. Dual wield sword Zaro has the energy beam still. He will hit very hard right now, so I gotta be careful with him. I think we evaded that attack that time, or blocked it. Alas, the fire elemental lived. We're actually doing decent damage if I'm able to phase him that quickly. I was worried I wouldn't do too much damage. No, it's still low damage relative to a lot of proper builds. But again, the slow playthrough is meant to not really have not be about a high damage build as much as just a demonstration of the game. Alright, let's leave this part. If you get hit by spikes or saw blades or pillars, they do percentile of your damage. However, if they count as hits, so Fortify does reduce the damage taken by them as well as physical reduction. So I think armor actually mitigates some of the damage, but it still hurts. Sepulchre Halls. So another reliquaries here if we cared to get it. I generally ignore the reliquaries and just beeline towards Zaro and just try to hope that I don't get wrecked. But yeah, this is the point in the game. There's the Zaro's reliquary. We're not going to bother with it. This is the point in the game where you want to have 105 overcapped resistance. We're at 95, so but I have some open crafting options to fix that. And the final trial. Oh wait, no, the second trial, sorry. Alright, which one is this? Lieutenants. Or no, portals. Portals are just Azaro's, a bunch of minions pop out of these portals. Leaving them alive is actually pretty worth it. Because they're generally, it's not really a hard, like having these extra portals doesn't really hurt that much. Enemies are easy enough to kill. So I tend to leave them up. A lot of people like the outdoor music for Labyrinth. Understandable, it's a good track. Has a good descending kind of arpeggio. Oh, Titan Greaves. Titan Greaves are the highest, well, one of the highest bases for armor greaves. The highest normal base. There are some higher ones later down the line, but they're rare. Titan is generally the highest armor base. If you hear Titan Greaves or Titan Gauntlets, that's the highest level for Greaves and Gauntlets at least. What that tree, I tell ya. Blocking the way. Rude of it. Sometimes the game's generation's like that. The minimap shows the way forward, but tiny trees get in the way. Thankfully the game doesn't bug out that way. You'll always find a way forward, nevertheless. Let's see if this is the correct location. Yep, this will lead forward. Well, we didn't come across Azaro's room. It's very Argus's room yet. It's actually pretty obvious where it is. There is actually a website dedicated to showing the layout of Labyrinth too, and showing you which areas have Argus and stuff. The Labyrinth is a daily, always has a relatively fixed layout each day. So people tend to, so there's a site dedicated to showing what the Labyrinth layout is, called pewelab.com, I think. And here we go. Aspirant's trial.
An aspirant can afford to be promising. An emperor.
Well, this would be good if it had move speed. It doesn't, so we're not going to care. The final trial. This is probably one of the easier boss layouts or air zone layouts for the final fight. One of my least annoying.
Finish this.
Did I get frozen there? Now, the one annoying thing about having portals up is these enemies don't despawn when you murder Azaro, so we're going to just pick these up and go. Apex Rapier could be something. And most importantly, get the final trial of Ascendancy. I think we'll get Conqueror. Makes enemies. Now there is something to be said for first to strike, last to fall, though. But I do like the notion. Not to mention this. I do like the notion of being more tanky. Not a good Apex Rapier, alas. This is almost okay. And finally, Transformer Gem, 15 million experience to gem. What level are we? 71. Could get Lancing Steel to be higher level. And there we go. And keep this jewel, sell this rapier, and we can leave. We'll vendor some items. And all we really have left is our certain final encounter with a certain cannibal god of hunger. How exciting. But first, vendor items. And while we're at it, why don't we use that Necropolis crafting just to stall a little more and be a tease and try to craft a good sword. I think that's a good thing, because you may notice Act 10 is actually very short. We did the Labyrinth and all the quests that matter within basically an hour. So we'll do some Necropolis crafting real quick, just to finish this all off. Speed, sure. Humanoid. And let's craft a weapon. This will be a one-handed sword, and I want to say we want an eternal sword. Physical damage, attack speed. This might be an upgrade. It really might. Just do some percent fizz damage on it, and we might have an... Alright, meanwhile, let's try some fire, lightning, and defenses, and make an amulet maybe, or a ring. How about an amethyst ring?
May the love of Rislatha free you of your anguish and aid this soldier, so that you may guide their hands to success.
Chaos res, nah, that's not good. And finally, none of this matters, so we'll just dump some stuff down. Shield, armor and evasion, teak.
So that you may shield them from harm.
It's not good. Okay, and cricket, corrupt a weapon, sword, eternal sword again.
Become a weapon to cut the wicked.
It's not good. Alright, these are all bad. And finally, we'll leave the rest be. Alright, this should be more damage overall. This sword we're about to craft. Just add some fizz damage to it. 115 to 210. Oh yeah, there's a skill that we want, Brutality over Vicious Proj. So 2 red and 3 green would actually be pretty good right here. Oh well. Let's quality this. Sure, why not? We have enough things for it. And then... Yep. Alright. 7... 8... Ta-da! We now have more damage. And more accuracy, actually, so we can get more life pool now. As needed. Which is very welcome. Alright, Eternal Sword get. And all we have left is to beat the game. The final area is 2 zones large. Innocence is like, yo, there's this kind of inconspicuous set of geometry here. But for the area that's blocking the final area, for the door that's blocking the final area of the game, this tiny little horn thing is not great. Now, before we go in, I'm just going to report a bot. Anyways, that's the perils of live streaming. Alright, let's go in the canals. We have some regurgitators, zealots, thralls, same stuff as before. We could do some enemies here. And since I don't like the Wickermen, we'll do that. Actually, I forget what the thralls are like. Yeah, let's get rid of the zealots. And actually they have the same amount of appearance, so let's just get some characters. You've seen the zealots before, so... And we'll just make this a spicy map. Why not?
convince innocents to put some clothes on for this battle.
Now the problem with the Wildwood cultists is they actually are really tough. They're empowered by wildness, and they explode corpses and do this annoying explosion attack. But mostly the annoying part is they do chaos damage. Alright, there we go. So, when I was first playing this game, I'll be honest, I didn't think that the final area was that impressive looking compared to like the Lunaris Temple or the Belly of the Beast. I was like, where's the gore and the horror? Oh, guff. Alright, let's kill Hillock. If a character doesn't have a rank, you want to kill them because they, that means they'll join a syndicate group.
Keep your word or lose your head.
Let's unveil the plated maul here. Alright, and we're free. Oh, we have Danig. And the jeweled foil. That's like the highest tier of damage here. Alright, so what we want to do is maybe that. We don't care about lightning damage that much.
Are you sure about that one? Seems risky.
And blow it all up. And hopefully not die to chaos damage. Which they do have, so... An expedition logbook. Those can drop from runic monsters and are pretty uncommon. Pick up the excavated chest. I forget what the exact layout, optimal layout of this area is. I want to just say you want to go up and left. Really, and that'll get you where you need to be. Another Siphon Flask Charges enemy. So one thing I'm pretty sure about is if a mod appears on a rare monster, it's very likely to appear again on another rare monster in the same zone. Just due to how I want to say the game pulls mods from a pool. At least I've found that to be the case. It's too popped up too much to make me think otherwise. Ah, the 6-link one. Nice. Yeah, those Wildwood cultists are probably some of the most dangerous enemies you can add to a map. in some ways. They were very dangerous in their original League, Affliction. Which was the League before this one? You had to have a pretty powerful character to deal with them easily. Here, let's grab this. Omen of Refreshment. What does this say? Refill all flasks when you reach 25% life. Love it. I don't know if this is the way, but it seems like there's no other path, so we'll go. The canals is just kind of a bunch of city blocks with canals in between. The next area is much more linear and also much grosser. Also, welcome back, Alice. We might get a level from this, assuming I don't die, just because one of the enemies just gives a lot of XP on murder. And we should be hearing the screams of people in agony coming up soon. I think we're one block away from that. You'll see why. Hello. I am doing well. We are almost done with the playthrough. Arguably. Not entirely quite, though. The ASMR zone is coming up. That's a hell of a way to put it. Yeah, we'll see what that means in a second. Alright. Only a little bit longer. I want to say we're one block away from the final area. Like, once we get around this bend, we'll be hearing some fun... Yep, I can hear it. If I just get a little bit closer. Can you hear it? I know the game's a little bit quiet on my stream's end, but it should be pretty audible. This enemy had the respawn revives allies on death ability, which includes itself, and that would be the that would include and that can be very pesky. And here we go. Notice it's blood red now, the water. It was like, oh, it's just a normal area with some burnt corpses before. And now we get to, I love the name of this area, the Feeding Trough. Because Kitava is like the god of endless hunger, cannibal god of endless hunger, and a place called the Feeding Trough, probably not a nice place to be. So... behold the finale. And I was like, oh, nice corpse vitriol. Oh, they're still alive. I love that little twist. Like, some of them are still alive and mutilated. I work on a Totem Templar build. Have you beaten the campaign? I believe last you were there, you were in Act 7 or 8. But yes, you can also see Tava's footprints on the ground, which I think is a nice touch. He tromps his way over to the end of this feeding trough. The lore-wise, Kitava, they even say like he's basically just sat. He decided just to sit up in Oriath and just have the food sent to him. That's the name of the area, and the slowly flowing viscous of gore heading this way. Layout-wise, the feeding trough is a very linear area. All you gotta do is just follow this like route. You don't even have to crisscross or anything. I guess it's feeding trough, isn't it? I always said trough just because phonetics confuse me. But it is trough, if I recall. It's not trough, it's feeding trough. My bad. Well, I probably ruined the dramatic suspense for people that actually know how that's pronounced, but it is the feeding trough. And we do get a final crafting recipe, Life and Mana rank 3. And have to talk to Sen to get to the Altar of Hunger. So, in 3.0, the music that played was just the same music as the Act 5 Kitava. They changed it up in 3.1.
I shall strike you down.
Now it has a proper finality theme. I really like the theme here. Kitava's a busy fight in Act 10. First thing he'll do is probably summon ground poop. Then he will breathe fire in one of the 3 sections of the map. So you have to keep an eye out for which directions he's breathing. At a certain health threshold, he'll spit out his heart. You have to destroy it. Then he'll grab Sen. And you have to knock Sen out of his hands. Or you also do the classic arena sweep, so you got to be on one side of that. Sen gets freed. You'll also have more area denial, because there wasn't enough already. That laser beam just does periodic hits. He also has a laser eyes that he does like 2 sweeps of that. Torchlight Infinite Soul this fight, that's amazing. I love it. The heart appears again once, and now we're halfway through. You'll still Innocence now. Ads will periodically appear during the fight too, which help his flask refills. So now we have Goopin laser. And I could tell, you can get a hang of which quadrant he's breathing in pretty easily. Innocence is freed. The campaign boss, oh yeah, I remember that vaguely. So awesome. He does this attack, the X Blast. I think he does a regular X Blast too. I haven't seen it though. The final coup de grace is this move, which looks like it's going to hit the entire arena. It doesn't hit the final sliver at the end, which I think is a bait and really, really rude. Oop. Like, they really should just fix that visual difference there. But they never did, because they want to trick people, I guess. And the final part of the fight is destroying the last Kitava's heart.
May a new dawn arise.
Torch of the Breeze Fire reaches to the top of the cathedral roof. I don't remember that well, but you know what? It's funny to me. And we get minus 60 Chaos Res. Now, originally, you had to pick up loot very fast, because what would happen is your character would get knocked out, and you'd wake up in Oriath, but it's nice and happy, and there was a picnic, and they had Kitava's head, and they were throwing fruit at it, rotten fruit. That doesn't happen anymore. You still get the minus 30% all resistances, so that's bad.
It's over.
The epilogue is now unlocked. And we have beaten the story mode. Or at least the campaign. There's still some story in the epilogue, and a lot of epilogue. But, we do get a quest reward from Lonnie. And it's the most important quest reward of all. 2 skill points. Not just 1, but 2. And I want to say we're going to get more life and elemental resistance. Spend more time in the epilogue than the story. Too true. Too absolutely true. I'm not sure what a good point to put points into is. We just got this. We just got our life node. I guess beelining the Constitution's not the worst idea. Kind of feel like I could do with damage, though. Also, getting spell suppression will eventually be a thing we need. You do not like this tree, the tree I have made? It is a very imbalanced tree and very messy. This is true. But it is a tree. I guess we could save a point in dexterity if I go here, but there's not really any point to do that. Unwavering stance doesn't matter because we can't be stunned anyways. Do I have the plus 50 to life node? I do. We don't need this. I guess we could go for Heart of the Warrior. Seems inefficient though, but might not be. Why not? Heart of the Warrior. Oh yeah, we can get 2 points. Lovely. And finally, we'll vendor some items. Put some items up. And put these up. And Act 10 is done. Now, all we have to do for the next area is talk to Lily, and we'll sail from Oriath. However, that'll have to wait for next time, because technically we're done with Act 10. We'll do the epilogue next time, or at least start the epilogue, and I'll talk about how that'll work when we get there. Oh yes, epilogue-wise, Innocence is going to go far south to basically Antarctica and repent by being very sad for a while. Lily and Whalem are going to take us to away from Oriath. Davinia is just going to sit here, I guess. And we'll see what happens then. Alright. And for the people watching the stream, we'll switch to other stuff, but until then, but for video-wise, the epilogue shall happen next.